The international break is done, but there's still a bit of time to have a look at what preceded it in the Premier League. A mixture of brilliance and controversy defined the third game week of the PL season, with the title race having its first twist. Let's look into it. The Saturday lunchtime game as Arsenal hosted Brighton. Arsenal kept their 4-3-3 from the Villa game with David Raya in goal and the same back four of Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes and Jurrien Timber. Captain Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey and Declan Rice made up the midfield three, with Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz joined by Leandro Trossard, who replaced Gabriel Martinelli as the front three. On the bench, Tommy Setford replaced the sold Aaron Ramsdale, Jakub Kivior, Alexander Zinchenko, Ricardo Calafiori, and Jorginho maintained their place, but Miles Lewis Skelly replaced the loaned out Reece Nelson. Ethan Nwaneri was there again, with Saladin Uladampand in for the sold Eddie Nketiah, and Martinelli replacing Trossard, who took his spot in the starting 11. For Brighton, Bart Verbruggen kept his place in goal from the win over Crawley in a 4-2-3-1. There was a whole new back line with Joel Veltman, Jan Paul van Hecker, Captain Lewis Dunk, and Jack Hinchelwood in for Tariq Lamptey, Adam Webster, Igor Julio, and Imari Samuels, who wasn't even in the matchday squad. James Milner was in for the injured Matt O'Reilly, joining Carlos Baleba in the engine room. There was a new front four with Yankuba Minte, Joao Pedro, and Kaoru Mitoma behind Danny Welbeck, replacing Yassin Ayari, the loaned out Jeremy Sarmiento, Julio Enciso, and Simon Adingra. Jason Steele, Lamptey, Julio, Webster, Purvis Estupinian, Enciso, Ayari, Jorginho Rutter, and Adingra were on the bench. Estupinian and Rutter being added to the matchday squad. There was no room for Evan Ferguson, Cameron Pupion, the loaned out Amario Cosia Duberry, the sold Jensen Weir, the loaned Malik Yalkuye, Odell Offia, or the loaned out Marco Mahoney. An early dink by Erdegaard found Saka, but his weak effort was straight at Verbruggen. Milner was forced off for Ayari. A cross found Trossard, but it was another tame shot straight at the Brighton keeper. A clearance bounced favourably for Saka, and a smart through ball found Havertz, who produced a delightful lob of Verbruggen to give Arsenal the lead. Rice was booked for a foul on Veltman and Partey for a foul on Pedro. He was 1-0 at the break. Rice got a second yellow for blocking a quick free kick. A through ball found Minter, whose effort was parried, but Pedro scored the rebound. Calafiori came on for Trossard, and Timber was booked for a foul on Minter. Minter was also booked for trying to move the ball closer for the free kick. Rutter and Estupinian came on for Minter and Veltman, and Martinelli came on for Odegaard. A clearance saw Havertz free, and a burst of pace saw him get a shot, but it was saved by Verbruggen, who also stopped the Saka rebound. A Von Hecker shot was saved by Raya and fell to Ayari, who somehow only found the Spaniard with its rebound. A smart Havertz ball found Saka on the break, but the England international had to stretch and his effort was saved. Zinchenko came on for Timber, while Adingra and Enciso came on for Mitoma and Welbeck. Raya was booked for time wasting, while Pedro was booked for a foul on Partey. It finished 1-1. The XG favoured Brighton 2.24 to 2.23. Wow, what a game. Let's get the boring bit out of the way first. Yes, it was a yellow card because he kicked the ball away and got in the way of a quick free kick, especially with the new guidance introduced at the start of last season, which is more strict on such behaviour. No, maybe it wasn't the best refereeing to give a second yellow for that. Chris Kavanagh was pretty card happy in general, giving David Raya a suspect yellow for time wasting and giving Minter one for moving the ball a bit closer for a free kick. But debating refereeing decisions is the absolute worst part of football analysis, and I don't care, especially as it was legally a yellow. Far more interesting is the football and how it was played before the red card and after it. As I noted in the last episode, with Liverpool's win over Brentford and Arsenal's win over Wolves, most of these games are pretty much exactly the same. And even against Brighton, Arsenal looked comfortable, in second gear, ahead, with Brighton making chances sometimes, but Arsenal having fashioned a goal. Trossard replaced Martinelli, as many Gooners were asking for, and though he still looks at his absolute best off the bench, he probably was an improvement. I predicted a 2-1 win for Arsenal, but it seems a lot simpler than that. After the red card, Emirates Stadium suddenly heated up, with both sets of supporters laying out angry shrieks after every foul, card, advantage, or even tackle where a foul wasn't given. Directly after, Brighton went all out with constant attacks and got their goal. But after the goal went in, Arsenal defended much more comfortably. And though they played to protect their draw, they also made some chances on the break. It feels like Brighton caught Arsenal before they had time to readjust, bringing on Calafiori and going to a 5-3-1. Anyway, what are the implications? Despite having a great start to the season, Brighton were firmly second best, and therefore this red card has given them a bonus point, although they'll be disappointed not to get another two. When they got their equaliser and it looks like they would go on to win, the Brighton fans sang Europe again, ole ole. And it seemed a realistic target now, with 7 points from their opening three games against Everton, Man United, and Arsenal, plus a 4-0 win in the Cup. As for Arsenal, they did well to salvage a point in the circumstances, but it's a massive two lost, and they would have won without the red card. You just feel that in a title race like this, it is massive even at this early stage, and the likes of Man City would have still found a way to win like this. At the very least, they would not have let this happen in the first place. It may be harsh because the incident was pretty innocuous, but Declan Rice has let his team down. He'll be quickly forgiven though, as there is nothing to do than focus on the rest of the campaign after the international break, although he will be suspended for their next match away to Spurs. On to the 3 p.m. games with Brentford hosting Southampton. The Bees used a 4-3-3 with Mark Flecken replacing Hakon Valdimarsson in goal from the Colchester game. Christopher Ayer replaced Ryan Trevitt at right back, with Nathan Collins and Ethan Pinnock in for Sepp van den Berg and Ben Mee as the centre backs. Vitali Janelt kept his place at left back. Matthias Jensen and captain Christian Nørgaard replaced Jehol Yarmoliuk and the loaned out Frank Onyeka in midfield, while Mikael Damsgaard kept his place. Brian Burmo and Johan Wisser came in for Fabio Carvalho and Keane Lewis Potter, with Kevin Schade staying out left. Valdemarsson, Vandenberg, Mee, Mads Roslav, Carvalho, Yarmoliuk, Eunice Konak, Trevitt, and Lewis Potter were on the bench. There was no room for Matthew Cox, the loaned out Miles Pert Harris, Kim Ji Soo, or Ewan Morgan. Southampton have some late transfer news, bringing defender Sam Tabares and midfielder Dioda Traore for undisclosed sums from Fulham and Nice, respectively, with Traore loaned out to Valenciennes. They also loaned in midfielder Noel Buck from New England Revolution for half a season, and midfielder Maxwell Cornet and forward Rory McLeod from West Ham and Dundee United, respectively, for the entire of this campaign. Finally, midfielder Samuel Edozie was loaned out to Anderlecht a few days after the transfer window closed in England. They used a 3-5-2. Aaron Ramsdale replaced Joe Lumley, who was not even in the squad, in goal from the Cardiff game, with a back three of Tyler Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek, and captain Jack Stevens. This meant no Ronnie Edwards, Nathan Wood, or Edozie, with the trio also not even in the squad. The midfielder were Yukinari Sugawara, Will Smallbone, Flynn Downs, Joe Aribo, and Carl Walker Peters, replacing James Bree, Tyler Dibbling, Leslie Ugachukwu, Mateus Fernandes, and Charlie Taylor. Adam Armstrong and Ben Brereton were the front two, in for Sam Amo Amior and Cameron Archer. On the bench was Alex McCarthy, Bree, Taylor, Adam Lallana, Fernandes, Ugachukwu, Dibbling, Archer, and Amo Amior. There was no room for Ryan Manning, Juan Larios, Armel Bella-Kotchap, Jay Robinson, Romeo Akachukwu, Jaden Moore, or Joe O'Brien Whitmarsh. Early on, a really smart through ball by Mbermo found Damsgaard, but his effort was straight at Ramsdale. A corner was headed by Aribo onto the bar after Flecken misjudged it. An Ayer through ball aimed for Schade was intercepted, but found Wisser, who still forced a save. After Southampton lost the ball, Damsgaard looked to find Wisser for a tap and a cross, but Harwood-Bellis cut it out. Harwood-Bellis was booked for a foul on Schade, while Mbermo was booked for a foul on Ayer. Ayer was forced off by injury and replaced by Roslav. The Saints lost possession again deep in their own half, with Schade hitting the post and Mbermo having an open goal for the rebound. It was 1-0 at the break, with Fernandes and Archer on for Smallbone and Armstrong. Dibbling came on for Harwood-Bellis before Southampton were again robbed deep in their own half. Jensen found Mbermo, and it was 2-0. A long throw-in was headed on by Collins, and Ramsdale couldn't get a clean hand on it, giving Wisser an easy goal for 3-0. Pinnock was booked for a foul on Aribo before Lewis Potter and Van den Berg came on for Janelt and Schade. Carvalho came on for Damsgaard and Lallana came on for Aribo. In injury time, a dink by Dibbling was headed down by Lallana and Sugawara smashed it in off the post to get one back. It finished 3-1 Brentford, and they also won on XG, 3.81 to 1.59. Dear, oh dear. I spoke about the values of so called woke football and Brexit football during game week 1 when Everton played Brighton. Russell Martin falls firmly into the woke category as his team had 63.4% possession, but it's becoming more and more clear he doesn't have the players to play possession football. They gave it away twice in hilarious and comedic fashion. Wait, that's not true. They gave it away twice, leading to a goal. They, in fact, did it over and over again. Aaron Ramsdale has gone from watching William Saliba and Gabriel in front of him to Harwood Bellis, Bednarek, and Stevens. What the hell are they doing? Well, you can get away with a misplaced pass, a slip, and someone in the Championship sometimes, but Brentford's players will have been cracking up to themselves at full time in the dressing room. It was just embarrassing, especially for the second goal, with Stevens and Bednarek getting in each other's way. Russell Martin said that he was happy with the players' intentions despite losing. Well, he needs to have a rethink, although more to it, the Southampton board do too, because his principles aren't working in this division with these players. They have the most errors leading to a shot in the division, and they went through three managers last time in the Premier League, with Ralph Hasenhüttl sacked in November. If things don't improve immediately, it may take even less time. After promising signs and a wasted opportunity in game week 1, they've looked utterly rotten in their last two league games. As for Brentford, fantastic for them, and they'll be very happy indeed. I predicted a 2-0 win, and they won easily enough by the same margin, although without the clean sheet. At home, they won two games, and getting results at the G-Tech will be crucial for them this season. They looked anything but a team in a relegation battle this season, although so did Southampton, for the opposite reason. Everton hosted Bournemouth at Goodison Park. Striker Armando Broja has been loaned in from Chelsea, while centre-back Reece Welch was loaned out to Danes. They kept the 4-2-3-1 from the Doncaster game, with Jordan Pickford still in goal. Captain Seamus Coleman was at right-back, with James Tarkowski in for Jake O'Brien, and joining Michael Keane at centre-back. Vitaly Michalenko completed the back four. Timo Robenham was joined by Idrissa Gueye in the engine room, the latter replacing James Garner. Jack Harrison replaced Jesper Lindstrom on the right, with Dwight McNeil and Iliman Ndiaye behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who replaced Beto. On the bench was Joao Virginia, O'Brien, Ashley Young, Roman Dixon, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Lindstrom, Garner, Harrison Armstrong, and Beto. There was no room for Mason Holgate. Bournemouth used a 4-2-3-1 with Kepa in for the loaned out Neto compared to the defeat away to West Ham. Julian Araujo replaced James Hill at right back with Ilya Zabarnyi in for Dean Huyson, joining Marcos Senesi as the centre back pairing. Milos Kerkez replaced Adam Smith at left back. Lewis Cook replaced Alex Scott, joining Ryan Christie in the engine room. Antoine Semenyo replaced Dango Watara on the right, with Justin Kluivert in the middle, Marcus Tavernier to the left, and Luis Sinisterra benched. Evan Nielsen replaced the loaned out Daniel Jebison up front. Mark Travers, Huyson, Smith, Hill, Max Aarons, David Brooks, Scott, Watara, and Sinisterra were on the bench. There was no room for Will Dennis. Corner went in and came off a few heads before falling to Ndiaye, who fired straight at Kepa. It was 0-0 at the break. Harrison puts a ball in the box, with Calvert-Lewin dropping it to Keane, who fired through the legs of Zabarnyi and past Kepa. Harrison found Coleman in space, who made a good touch and should have scored, but saw his effort tapped over by Kepa. McNeil fed through Calvert-Lewin, who made it 2-0. Sinisterra, Scott, and Watara came on for Evanilson, Christie, and Kerkez. Tarkovsky hit the post from a corner. A clash between Keane and Semenyo led to both being booked. Huyson and Smith came on for Senesi and Araujo. Doucouré came on for Ndiaye. An unlikely cross by Watara found Semenyo, who scored at the back post. Beto then came on for Calvert-Lewin. A cross by Semenyo saw Cook charging in, and he headed home an equaliser in injury time. Irobenham was also booked for a foul in the build-up. Another cross by Sinisterra was headed home by Kluivert. It finished 3-2 Bournemouth. Everton had a higher XG, 2.08 to 1.44. This is just unbelievable. For the third game out of three, I ask, what the hell is this? Everton had it back on track. They won 4-0 in the Cup at midweek, and at a study Goodison Park, they were 2-0 up, giving a lovely feel to things with smiles all round. Then they imploded in hilarious fashion. Well, hilarious for most people. Goodison Park just feels like a toxic waste site at the moment with a planned demolition date. This historic ground doesn't deserve this. But Fun as it is to laugh at Everton, and it is for most people, sorry, Everton fans, for 85 minutes they looked like a functional and better team against a Bournemouth who started the season pretty well. I predicted a tight game and a 1-all draw, but in fact they were miles better than the Cherries and should have won the game easily. They only scored two out of a number of chances, enjoying 18 shots in the game. They were exciting and brilliant, and they still lost in a fashion equally hilarious and gloomy. I still think that they shouldn't get rid of Sean Dyche because not many men would have had them in that position in the first place. Bournemouth, however, fashioned a cheap goal, and then their players looked frightened and their body language on edge. Bournemouth pressed, and at the first sense of danger, Everton wilted. Dyche said it is the most frustrating defeat in his career as a player or manager, and the way he is talking in these press conferences is a bad sign, like it's getting to him a bit. It has for a lot of good managers there. In the last 5 minutes plus injury time, Everton, who had only conceded one shot on target to that point, conceded six. Tactically, it should be noted that all three goals came from crosses, showing once again that Everton have weaknesses in the fullback positions. Even Andoni Iraola said Everton deserved to win. Not that Bournemouth will care. Some idiots tip them to go down. But they've got a system that's working and are unbeaten in 3 league games. Still, the quality of the opposition has been just all right. They were outplayed here and only had an Everton special to give them the win. Still not convinced, but 5 points is massive if they are in a scrap, and it looks good at this early stage. Ipswich hosted Fulham and used a 4-2-3-1. Compared to the AFC Wimbledon game, they moved Arianet Muric in goal for Christian Walton. An all-new back four of Axel Twanzebe, Luke Wolfenden, Jacob Greaves and Leif Davis came in for Ben Johnson, Dara O'Shea, Cameron Burgess, who was not even in the squad, and Connor Townsend. Captain Sam Morsey came in for Jens Kajust, joining Calvin Phillips in the engine room. Chidozie Ogbene was at right wing with Amari Hutchinson at number 10, replacing Connor Chaplin. Sam Smodics replaced Jack Clark on the left. Liam Delap came in for Ali Al Hamadi up front. Walton, Johnson, Townsend, O'Shea, Kajust, Massimo Luongo, Chaplin, Al Hamadi, and Clark were on the bench. There was no room for the loaned out Marcus Harness, Kieran Slicker, or Jack Taylor. Fulham have some late transfer news, signing left winger Reece Nelson from Arsenal on loan and selling striker Jay Stansfield to Birmingham for £10 million, and centre back Samuel Tavares to Southampton for compensation. Central midfielder Adrian Pajaziti has also been loaned out to Gorica. The formation is now being defined as a 4-3-3 rather than a 4-2-3-1. Compared to the Birmingham game, there were 11 changes as captain Bernd Leno replaced Stephen Bender in goal. The new back four saw Kenny Tete, Issa Diop, Calvin Bassey, and Anthony Robinson replacing Timothy Castagna, Joaquim Anderson, Jorge Suenza, and Ryan Sessegnon. In midfield, Andres Pereira, Sasa Lukic, and Emil Smith Rowe replaced Sander Berger, Harrison Reed, and Tom Kearney. Adama Traore, Rodrigo Muniz, and Alex Iwobi replaced Harry Wilson, Stansfield, and Raul Jimenez as the front three. On the bench were Bender, Anderson, Suenza, Castagna, Reed, Wilson, Kearney, Berger, and Jimenez. There was no room at all for Sessegnon or the salt Stansfield. Josh King, on the bench against Birmingham, was also no longer in the squad. Early on, Delap went on a driving run and fired from long range, with Leno getting a hand on it but not keeping it out. Delap then headed wide from a corner. A Robinson cross on the break found Traore, who equalised. Then a Traore cross was headed straight at Muric by Muniz. Morsey was booked for a foul on Muniz, and at half time it was 1-1. Lukic was booked for a foul on Delap before the Ipswich striker forced a save from Leno from a difficult angle on the turn. Robinson was booked for a foul on Ogbene. Kajust came on for Phillips, while Berger came on for Smith Rowe. Traore was booked for a foul on Davis. Jimenez came on for Muniz, while Clark and Al Hamadi came on for Smodics and Delap. Jimenez made a run on the break, but his effort was saved by Muric. Reed, Wilson, and Kearney came on for Lukic, Iwobi, and Pereira, while Chaplin came on for Ogbene. Hutchinson had an injury time effort on the spin saved. Al Hamadi was booked for a foul on Jimenez. It finished 1-1. Fulham had a higher XG, 1.19 to 0.71. Is a draw, but the home side will probably be happier. After two losses to Champions League sides set the tone, a penalties exit in the League Cup to League Two AFC Wimbledon sounded the alarm bells. This result against a very decent Fulham side will be very welcome and should stabilise things going into an international break. For 2 seasons in a row, one promoted team has been totally discounted at the outset. Last time it was Luton, this time Ipswich. A result like this is massively helpful because it clears the imposter syndrome that a new club will be feeling and makes them feel in place in the Premier League. I'm still not convinced with them, but they do seem to have a knack for taking the sting out of games and reducing them to be a bit duller. This is no bad thing when going for points, and it works very well in the first half against Liverpool. Here, they were the better team in the closing stages, looking most likely to get a winner. However, Fulham will be worried. They added Emil Smith Rowe, who has been a creative spark, but this result is showing significant problems for the West London side. Fulham had a great result against Leicester last time out, and I thought they'd get a 2-0 win here, but in 3 league games, they have managed just 3 goals. Their XG of 3.1 is the fourth lowest in the Premier League. This is a big problem when you consider that they played against 2 promoted clubs, as well as Man U, who conceded the second most shots in the league last season, and Rodrigo Muniz looked miles off the level he was setting last season, with Raul Jimenez not much better off the bench. A side that doesn't score goals could find itself having big problems this campaign. Leicester hosted Aston Villa at King Power Stadium. The Foxes used a 4-2-3-1 with Mads Hermansen in goal after Danny Ward was between the sticks for the win at home to Tranmere. James Justin replaced Ricardo Pereira at right back, while Wout Faes and Caleb Akoli remained the centre-back partnership. Victor Christiansen came in for Luke Thomas at left back. Harry Winks and Oliver Skipp kept their place in the engine room, with Abdul Fatawu replacing Casey McAteer on the right. Wilfred Ndidi was at number 10 with Jordan Ayew on the left and captain Jamie Vardy replacing Steffi Mavididi up front. There was a mostly new bench with Daniel Everson, Pereira, Yannick Vestergaard, Bilal El Khanous, Bubakari Sumare, McAteer, Facundo Buonanotte, Mavididi and Bobby Decordova-Reid. Only Everson and Decordova-Reid started on the bench against Tranmere. That meant Ward and Thomas were not in the squad at all, and there was also no room for Connor Cody, Hamza Chowdhury, Ben Nelson, Will Alves, or the loaned out Chris Popov. Aston Villa have one transfer update as they loaned out defensive midfielder Leander Dondonka to Anderlecht. They kept their 4-4-2 from the defeat at home to Arsenal with Emiliano Martinez in goal. Lamar Bogard replaced Matty Cash at right back with the rest of the defence unchanged, featuring Esri Konsa, Pau Torres and Luca Digne. The rest of the team was also the same, with the midfield four consisting of Leon Bailey, Amadou Onana, Yuri Tielemans and captain John McGinn, with Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins the front two. Joe Gauchi remained on the bench, with Olivier Zitchadid. Costa Nedeljkovic and Ian Matson remained there, with Sil Swinkles in for Diego Carlos. Ross Barkley, Emiliano Buendia, Jacob Ramsey, and John Duran were there again, but the extra defender meant no room for Jaden Philogene. Early on, Tielemans fed through Watkins, but Hermansen pushed it away before the England striker could get his shot away. Onana was booked for a foul on Ayew, while Ramsey came on for Bailey. Fass lost the ball deep into the half. Rogers set up Watkins, but his attempt was saved by Hermansen. Skip was booked for a foul on Watkins. A smart free kick routine saw Ramsey square it to Onana, who gave Villa the lead. Tielemans was booked for a foul on Fatawu, and it was 1-0 Villa at the break. Leicester scored through Jamie Vardy, but a through ball hit the referee, who was forced to rule it out and award a drop ball. Bogard was booked for a foul on Ayew, while Duran and Barkley came on for Watkins and Onana. Adinia Cross then found Duran, who headed home to double Villa's lead. Mavididi, El Khanous and Buonanotte came on for Ayew, Skip and Fatawu. A Mavididi cross was headed by Ndidi, and Buonanotte smashed home. Okoli was booked for a foul on Rogers, and McGinn for a foul on Mavididi. Nedeljkovic and Matson came on for Bogard and Ramsey, while Vardy was booked for a foul on Nedeljkovic. Decordova-Reid came on for Ndidi, with Duran booked for a foul on Justin. McAteer came on for Okoli, and Winks was booked for arguing with the ref. It finished 2-1 Villa, a result that lined up with XG, which Villa won 2.16 to 0.77. Big result for Villa away from home after a tough defeat to Arsenal. They've won both games away from home before they enter the cup competitions and Champions League, and that's massive for them. Teams that get Europe win games regularly, even tough ones like this. And with other teams faltering, as we shall see, they're making a case that they're the best outside the top three again this season early on. I predicted a more comprehensive 3-0 win, but a big problem for them is Ollie Watkins, who withdrew from the England squad due to a knock. However, he hasn't looked unfit, he has just wasted chances and has the worst record in the Premier League of goals compared to XG, sitting on minus 1.6. John Duran, scoring two off the bench so far this term, means that Unai Emery has a massive headache, although a nice one to have, with two great strikers at his disposal. After an international break, you feel Watkins will need a couple of goals to restore confidence. As for Leicester, the reality of the Premier League is starting to dawn. They're a delighted with the draw away to Spurs to start things, but it's 0 points from 2 games against Fulham and Villa, and they're finding things tough. They looked too good for the Championship last season, but are still a newly promoted side who will have to take every chance they can get for points. Steve Cooper put a positive picture on things, and they don't look out of place at this level, but it'll be nip and tuck all season, even though a points deduction now looks less likely. The final 3 p.m. game saw Nottingham Forest host Wolves. Forest loaned out goalie Matt Turner to Crystal Palace on deadline day. Striker Hwang Wee-jo has been sold to Alanyaspor for an undisclosed fee. Compared to the penalty defeat at home to Newcastle, Forest used a 4-2-3-1 and Matt Sells was in goal instead of Carlos Miguel. The back four had Neko Williams, Nikola Milenkovic, Marino and Ola Aina instead of Eric da Silva Moreira, Williano Bolli, Andrew Omobamidele, and Alex Moreno. Ibrahim Songare replaced Nicolas Dominguez in the engine room and joined Elliot Anderson. The front four was Anthony Alanga, Captain Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood, replacing Jota Silva, Zach Abbott, due to a change of formation, Ramon Sosa, and Taiwo Awoniyi. Miguel, Moreno, Bolli, Dominguez, the returning Ryan Yates, Awoniyi, Da Silva Moreira, Silva, and Sosa were on the bench, with no Omobamidele or Abbott at all. The loaned out Turner, Harry Tafolo, and Ben Perry were also removed from the squad. Wolves sold right winger Daniel Pedence to Al Shabab for an undisclosed fee and also got rid of central midfielder Mason Rees to Russia Olympic for free. Attacking midfielder Owen Hesketh, centre back Cam Candola, and right winger Ethan McLeod were all also released. They used a 4-4-1-1 with Sam Johnston replacing Dan Bentley in goal from the Burnley game. Nelson Semedo replaced Pedro Lima at right back, with Yerson Mosquera replacing Santiago Bueno and joining Craig Dawson in the centre back partnership. Totti Gomes came in for Ryan Ait Nouri at right back, as the Algerian moved up into midfield. Jean-Ric Bellegarde replaced Tommy Doyle on the right, with Joao Gomes and captain Mario Lemina in for Boubacar Traoré and Pedence. Ait Nouri took Chiquinho's spot on the left. Mateus Cunha replaced Pablo Sarabia and played behind Jurgen Strand Larsen, replacing Gonzalo Gedge. Bentley, Matt Doherty, Bueno, Andre, Doyle, Sarabia, Hwang Hee-chan, Rodrigo Gomes, and Gedge were on the bench. There was no Traore, Pedence, Chiquinho, Lima, Tom King, or Luke Rowlings in the squad. Mark Brubel unlocked Cunha, but Ait Nouri was forced into a tight angle and his first shot was saved, while the second was off the line by Murillo. Bellegarde was booked for a foul on Hudson-Odoi. An Anderson corner was headed past Johnston for the opener. A long-range effort by Bellegarde equalised instantly. Joao Gomes was booked for a foul on Hudson-Odoi. A free kick by Gibbs-White forced Johnston into a save. Songare was booked for a foul on Cunha and Totti for a foul on Elanga. There was a big handball shout as a cross came off Larsen's hand, but it was ruled inadvertent. And it was 1-1 at half time. Lemina was booked for a foul on Williams. Anderson had an effort in the blocks, deflected over by Mosquera. Yates came on for Songare, while Doyle and Hwang came on for Joao Gomes and Ait Nouri. A brilliant dink by Hudson-Odoi found Wood, but the New Zealanders' header was saved by Johnston from close range. Gedge and Doherty came on for Bellegarde and Semedo. Sosa came on for Hudson-Odoi. A free kick hit Wood's arm in the box, but penalty shouts were waved away. Andre came on for Larsen later on, with Anderson booked for a foul on Gedge and replaced by Awoniyi, while Silva came on for Elanga. Gibbs-White was booked for a foul on Lemina. It finished 1-1, with Forest taking XG 1.41 to 0.91. Forest have started the season well, unbeaten in 4 games in all competitions, although they were eliminated from the League Cup on penalties. They look a cut above the promoted teams and a couple of others, and it looks very unlikely they'll go down. However, if they want to go to the next level, challenging for top half, they probably want to win to games like this. They were the team with more chances and were at home. It was not a dominant performance by any means, and these two teams are expected to occupy similar parts of the table come May, not challenging for Europe nor worrying about relegation. Wolves didn't even experiment with a back three in the League Cup, and it's clear they look competent enough, if not brilliant, with a back four that's here to stay. But that's how they looked before they made the switch anyway. I predicted the 1-1 draw, and they have their first point on the board, which was needed after 2 tough games against opposition playing in Europe. They'll have to press on now and find some more points, because they don't want to be dragged into anything resembling a relegation scrap, something these players aren't used to, having grown accustomed to mid-table stability. In the evening game, West Ham hosted Man City. The Irons have loaned out centre-back Kurt Zuma to Al Oroba and used a 4-2-3-1, with Alphonse Areola starting in goal after Łukasz Fabianski played in the cup win at home to Bournemouth. Aaron Wan-Bissaka stayed at right back, with Konstantinos Mavropanos replacing Jean-Claire Todibo and joining Maximilian Kilman at centre-back. Emerson came in for Vladimir Soufal at left-back. Guido Rodriguez came in for Thomas Soucek and joined Edson Alvarez in the engine room. Captain Jared Bowen was on the right, with Lucas Paquetá replacing James Ward-Prowse at number 10. Mohamed Kudus came in for Crescencio Somerville on the left, with Mikel Antonio replacing Niklas Füllkrug up top. Fabianski, Soufal, Todibo, Keelan Casey, Andy Irving, Soucek, Somerville, Füllkrug, and Luis Guilherme were on the bench. There was no Ward-Prowse or Wes Foderingham in the squad. Man City kept their 3-2-4-1 formation from the home win over Ipswich, keeping Ederson in goal. Manuel Akanji, Ruben Dias, and Joško Vardiol were still the back three, with Rico Lewis and Mateo Kovacic an unchanged engine room. Jeremy Doku moved to the right of the midfield four, with Bernardo Silva and captain Kevin De Bruyne now seeing Jack Grealish on the left, with Savinho out of the squad. Erling Haaland remained up top. Stefan Ortega, Carl Walker, John Stones, and Nathan Ake were on the bench, with Rodri taking Issa Kabore's spot. Ilkay Gundogan and Mateusz Nunes were also there, with Nico O'Reilly in for Savinho and James McAtee completing the list. West Ham lost it deep in their territory, and Silva put a through ball to Haaland, who fired home. After a 1-2 from a corner, De Bruyne spotted Areola out of position, but his shot was saved by the Frenchman. A Doku cutback found De Bruyne, whose effort hit the post, and Grealish put the rebound wide. A Bowen cross was deflected in by Dias for an own goal. A smart move in the box saw Haaland take a touch and fire it high into the net. De Bruyne was booked for a foul on Antonio. It was 2-1 City at the break, with Fabianski coming on for Areola. After a quick counter-attack Kudus hit the post, Emerson was booked for a foul on Doku, and Kilman was as well. Gundogan then came on for the Belgian, with Soufal and Füllkrug coming on for Emerson and Antonio. Nunes came on for Grealish, while Rodriguez was booked for a foul on Kovacic. Soucek came on for Alvarez. A Nunes through ball found Haaland, who fired home for his hat-trick. Somerville came on for Bowen, while Ake and Walker came on for De Bruyne and Grealish. Akanji was booked for a foul on Paquetá. On the break, the ball fell to Somerville, but Ederson pushed his effort onto the post. It finished 3-1 Man City. City had a higher XG, 3.43 to 0.79. Haaland looks ridiculous and fitter than ever, scoring a hat-trick and playing the full 90 minutes after a nice rest during the Euros. We'll see how he looks when the fixtures add up and he's playing twice a week, but for now, his cheat code status looks secure, and he looks the best footballer on planet Earth at the moment. The second goal in particular was ridiculous. I predicted a routine 2-0 win, and the margin was correct, although they missed a clean sheet. This City dynasty is going absolutely nowhere, and they look good money for the title. Perhaps if they had a worry, it would be at the back. West Ham had chances, and they have conceded 2 times in a row. But it's splitting hairs, and XG doesn't lie. They only conceded 0.79 of it. City are a scary outfit, and the only thing you can take away from them is that they have hardly faced adversity yet, although that's only because they make it look so easy. West Ham won't be worried by this at all, although it is a slow start with 3 points from three. Both losses came against Champions League sides, and West Ham hope but don't expect to pick up points against Man City. They also introduced more of their new signings in this game, who will be expected to feature more prominently after the international break. But wow, Erling Haaland. Can he be the first person to score more than a goal per game in a PL season? All of his underlying numbers, like shot accuracy and conversion rate, are miles up. His first touch is delightful, his final one lethal. We can expect the impossible with a man like that. On to Sunday's half one fixtures, starting with the one moved due to European commitments, as Chelsea hosted Crystal Palace. The games were moved half an hour earlier, probably due to a policing request regarding United Liverpool. Chelsea have loaned in left winger Jadon Sancho from Man United. They have loaned out left winger Raheem Sterling to Arsenal, striker Armando Broja to Everton, and centre back Trevor Chalobah to Crystal Palace. Right winger Angelo Gabriel has been sold to Al Nassr for £19.4 million. Chelsea kept their 4-2-3-1 from the Conference League defeat away to Servette, but Robert Sanchez replaced Philip Jurgensen in goal. There was a back four of Malo Gusto, Wesley Fofana, Levi Colwill, and Marc Cucurella, replacing Renato Vega, Benoit Badiashile, Tosin Adarabioyo, and Axel Disasi. In the engine room, Moises Caicedo came in for Kin and Dewsbury Hall, joining captain Enzo Fernandez. The front four had Noni Madueke with Cole Palmer in for Christopher Nkunku at number 10. On the left, Pedro Neto replacing Mihajlo Mudryk, while Nicholas Jackson came in for Mark Guyu up top. Jorgensen, Disasi, Adrabayo, Mudryk, Dewsbury Hall, Cesare Casadei, Vega, Joao Felix, and Nkunku were on the bench. There was no room for Badiashile or Guyu in the squad, nor Marcus Bettinelli, Tyreek George, or Joshua Achiampong, who were on the bench in Switzerland. Crystal Palace signed striker Eddie Nketiah from Arsenal for £25 million. Centre-back Trevor Chalobah and goalie Matt Turner were loaned in from Chelsea and Forest respectively. Central midfielder Nawiru Ahamada was loaned out to Rennes, and striker Odson Edouard to Leicester. They used a 3-4-2-1 again, and Dean Henderson kept his spot in goal from the home win over Norwich. Nathaniel Klein and captain Mark Gay were now joined by Chris Richards, who came in for Chadi Riyad. The midfield four had Daniel Munoz, Adam Wharton, who replaced Cheikh Doucouré, Will Hughes, and Tyrick Mitchell. Daichi Kamada and Eberechi Eze were behind Jean-Philippe Mateta. Remy Matthews, Joel Ward, Jeffrey Schlupp, Doucouré, Caden Rodney, Justin Devenny, Asha Agbinone, Ismaila Sarr, and Franco Umechibweze were on the bench. As well as no Riyad in the squad, there was also no Hefferson Lerma, Edouard, Ahamada, or Sam Johnston, the latter three having left Selhurst Park. Neto was booked for a foul on Munoz. An early Palmer shot was put wide. Hughes was booked for a foul on Jackson. A long ball forward fell nicely for Madueke, but the England international put it wide. A smart ball forward by Fernandez found Madueke at point-blank range, but the shot was saved by Henderson. Madueke went on a driven run from a break and found Palmer, who laid it off to Jackson, who tapped in. Fofana was booked for a foul on Mateta. It was 1-0 Chelsea at the break. There were calls for a second yellow when Hughes bundled down Palmer outside the box, but only a free kick was given. It was taken by Palmer, who forced Henderson into a save. Soon after, Doucouré came on for Hughes. A Wharton cutback found the Mali international, whose effort was blocked, but it fell to Eze, who placed home a brilliant equaliser that kissed the post on its way in. Felix came on for Neto, and Jackson was booked for a foul on Gay. Sarr came on for Mateta and Mudryk for Gusto. Munoz made a run down the right and cut back to Kamada, but the Japan international shot was saved by Sanchez. Nkunku came on for Madueke and Schlupp for Kamada. Munoz was booked for a foul on Colwell. Palmer was booked for kicking the ball away. On the break, Nkunku found Jackson, who fired into the side netting. A long ball over the top by Mudryk found Jackson as well, but Henderson managed to save his effort. It finished 1-1, though Chelsea had 2.42 expected goals to Palace's 0.36. On the evening of this game, Chelsea announced an extension to Nicholas Jackson's contract. He's now tied down until 2033. He scored a hat-trick against Wolves, but missed several chances in this game. It's a shame for Chelsea because maligned stars like Nkunku and Mudryk created good opportunities, and Jackson didn't take them. I predicted a 3-1 win for the Blues, but the Senegal international let me down. Last season, his non-penalty XG was missed by 4.6, the fourth worst conversion rate in the league. The problem is, in this division, Chelsea can dominate the game against mid-table teams, but if they give them a sniff of hope, they will normally be punished. The Blues were all over Palace, but now dropped 2 points, and their form, with 2 wins from 5 games in all competitions, seems like the same inconsistent Chelsea of the last few years. Eze has looked fantastic at the start of the season, and after having been cruelly denied at Brentford, he finally scored. Palace have just 2 league goals, with the other one being an own goal by the Bees, and they'll be happy for one of their own to net. They'll also be happy to get their first point. Big things were predicted for Palace, and to lose 2-2 was difficult for them. They will help steady things a lot because you don't want to have 0 points at an international break. I still think they'll be absolutely fine, especially as they have kept Mark Gay. Their system does rely on them taking chances, though, like most in elite football, and they'll need to find more goals. They'll hope that the signing of Eddie Nketiah does that, although he has 19 Premier League goals in 116 games. To be fair, he was often used off the bench by Arsenal, but he'll hope to start more often at Selhurst Park and put a run of games and goals together. The regular televised game, Newcastle hosted Spurs. The Magpies have offloaded left winger Ryan Fraser to Southampton for free. Attacking midfielder Joe White, centre back Miodrag Predash, and left back Jamal Lewis have joined MK Dons, Willem Tvei, and Sao Paulo, respectively, on loans. They used a 4-3-3, with Nick Pope keeping his spot in goal from the penalties win away to Forest. Tino Livramento replaced Kieran Trippier at right back, with Emil Krath and Dan Burn remaining the centre back pairing. Lloyd Kelly came in for Lewis Hall at left back. Bruno Guimaraes and Sean Longstaff came in for Joe Willock and Sandro Tonali, while Joe Linton completed the midfield three. There was one change in the front line as Anthony Gordon replaced Miguel Almiron on the right, and Alexander Isak and Harvey Barnes completed the 11. Martin Dubravka was fit and replaced John Ruddy as sub-keeper, while Trippier, Matt Targett, Hall, Alex Murphy, Tonali, Jacob Murphy, Almiron, and William Osulo were on the bench. Spurs have loaned out central midfielder Alfie Devine to Westerlo. They kept their 4-3-3 from the win at home to Everton, with Guglielmo Vicario in goal. Pedro Porro stayed at right back, but Radu Dragashin came in at centre back, with Christian Romero budging over to be on the left of the two, as Mickey von der Veen was injured. Destiny Adogi remained at left back. Papsar replaced Dejan Kulusevski in the midfield three, with a Swede moving forward, and Yves Bissouma and James Maddison were again in midfield. Wilson Odobert moved from the left to the right wing, replacing Brennan Johnson, as Kulusevski was up front and captain Son Heung-min moved to the left. Fraser Forster, Jed Spence, Ben Davies, Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall were on the bench. Rodrigo Bentancur and Alfie Devine took Sar and Dragashin spots, while Timo Werner and Johnson completed it. There was no room for the injured Richarlison. Isak spotted Vicario off his line and his cross-come shot hit the bar. Kelly was booked for a foul on Son and Sarr for a foul on Kelly. Kelly received the ball from a throw-in, ran forward and cut back to Barnes, who fired home. Longstaff was booked for a foul on Udogi, while Joel Linton was booked as well for a foul. It was 1-0 Newcastle at the break, with Johnson coming on for Sarr. Early on, Isak found himself through on goal on the counter, but a brilliant tackle by Dragashin saved Tottenham. Bissouma was booked for a foul on Barnes, while a Porro effort from a corner was deflected onto the bar by Longstaff. A long-range effort by Maddison was spilled by Pope, who recovered wonderfully to save Johnson's rebound. It fell to Byrne, who botched his clearance into the roof of his net for an own goal. Guimaraes was booked for a foul on Maddison, while Jacob Murphy came on for Barnes. The former England under-21 international was set by Gordon, but saw his effort saved by Vicario. A Son cross was only half cleared, and Maddison's 20-metre effort forced a good save from Pope. Maddison was booked for a foul on Guimaraes before Tonali and Hall came on for Longstaff and Kelly. Werner came on for Odobert, while a Joel Linton through ball unlocked Jacob Murphy, who squared it to Isak to put the Magpies in front. Bergvall and Bentancur came on for Maddison and Bissouma, while Bentancur was booked for a foul on Gordon. Almiron replaced the England international in injury time, and it finished 2-1 United. The XG was closer, with Newcastle taking it 1.61 to 1.30. Big result this, no doubt about it, after I predicted a 1-all draw. The prevailing narrative going up to this game was one of doom and gloom for Newcastle. After a quiet deadline day, fans have realised that they are not going to become the Saudi mega club they want to be overnight, and perhaps not for a good long while. The PSR rules meant that they had to sell, and it's clear that the transformation will take time, although it should be remembered that they were in the relegation zone when the takeover happened. Magpies legend Alan Shearer said the club had failed Eddie Howe. On the other hand, Spurs fans were bold after a 4-0 win over Everton. Manager Ange Postecoglou said that usually I win things in my second season. Many a serial winner has showed up to Tottenham as of late and realised it's not that easy there. I'm talking Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho. Postecoglou has won trophies in Japan, Australia and Scotland, but this is a club which is more or less defined by its trophy drought. Spurs dominated the second half against the Northeasterners, but played a high line, got caught out, and conceded a winner. And this type of thing that won't get punished by Kashima Antlers or Kilmarnock will by Newcastle or Leicester. This isn't patronising, it's just a fact that standards are higher in the Premier League than the other domestic ones he has coached in. And that can be proved by England's UEFA coefficient compared to Scotland's, and the lack of success for AFC teams in the Club World Cup. You have to minimise risk as well as maximise output in this league, especially as though Son is a star, he is not a Haaland or Salah. For Newcastle, they punished Spurs' naivete, which has been a theme under Postecoglou. Remember when they persisted with a high line at home to Chelsea with 9 men? and now have 7 points from 3 games, as well as advancing in the League Cup away to Prem opposition. But there is still a feeling performances must improve. They didn't really look like the better team in any of those 3 games, and in this one, Spurs should have won. But they didn't, they lost, and they still look a long way off the big 3. Newcastle will hope that Tonali is like a new signing for them after he is now fit to play, and after the international break, he may well return to the midfield, perhaps for Longstaff. The blue ribbon match saw Man United host Liverpool. United have loaned out goalie Tom Miles and forward Jadon Sancho to Runcorn Linnets and Chelsea, respectively. They use the same 4-2-3-1 formation from the defeat away to Brighton, with Andre Onana still in goal. Nocer Mazraoui was still at right back, but Matthias de Ligt replaced Harry Maguire at centre back, partnering Lisandro Martinez. Diogo Dalot remained at left back. The same engine room had Casemiro and Kobbie Mainoo, but Alejandro Garnacho replaced Amad Diallo at right wing. Bruno Fernandes dropped back to attacking midfield, replacing the injured Mason Mount, while Marcus Rashford remained on the left. Joshua Zirkzee made his first start up front, taking the spot vacated by Fernandes. Outside by India was now joined by Tom Heaton on the bench, with Maguire dropping down and joining Johnny Evans, Christian Eriksen, and Toby Collier. The extra goalie was because there was no longer a spot for the loaned out Scott McTominay. Diallo dropped to the bench, with Anthony still there, and Ethan Wheatley being added. Liverpool also used a 4-2-3-1, just as they did in the win at home to Brentford, and the team was the same. Alisson Becker kept his spot in goal with a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate, captain Virgil van Dijk, and Andy Robertson. Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister in the engine room. The front four had Mohamed Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai, and Luis Diaz behind Diogo Jota. Queeman Kelleher, Joe Gomez, Kostas Tsimikas, Jarell Quansah, Conor Bradley, Wataru Endo, Harvey Elliott, Darwin Nunez, and Cody Gakpo were on an unchanged bench. A nice move for Liverpool was finished by Alexander Arnold, with Dallow's block not until goal line technology had ruled it had fully crossed. However, Salah, who provided the assist, was offside and it was then ruled out. Xerxes was booked for a foul on Salah. After Casemiro gave it away to Gravenberch, a Salah cross was headed home by Diaz for the opener. The ball fell to Mazraoui in the box, but his shot, which went through the legs of Van Dijk, was saved by Alisson. Martinez was booked for a foul on Szoboszlai. Casemiro was robbed by Diaz and the ball came to Salah. He played it back to the Colombian, who doubled his tally and Liverpool's lead. Mainoo was booked for a foul on Gravenberch. It was 2-0 Liverpool at the break. Collier came on for Casemiro. An early Xerxes effort was saved by Alisson. Van Dijk was booked for a foul on Fernandes. Mainoo was overpowered by McAllister. And then Szoboszlai found Salah, who fired home Liverpool's third. A Rashford cross found Xerxes, who headed straight at Alisson from point-blank range. De Ligt got booked for a foul after the ref initially played advantage. Gakpo came on for Diaz, while Maguire and Diallo came on for De Ligt and Garnacho. Nunez and Bradley came on for Jota and Alexander-Arnold. A Rashford cross found Xerxes at the back post, but the Dutchman put it wide. Tsimikas came on for Robertson, while Eriksen came on for Xerxes. It finished 3-0 to Liverpool, but United had a higher XG, 1.52 to 1.50. Though Chelsea versus Man City was the first Big Six tie of the season, this felt like the first really big box office clash. While City were expected to beat Chelsea, there were questions about this game. Arne Slot had his first real test as Liverpool manager, and though United came 8th last season, Old Trafford shouldn't be an easy place for Liverpool Football Club. I also thought United would be better than last season, more on that later. I still think Liverpool are better, and they looked good in their first 2 games, apart from the first half against Ipswich, so I predicted a tight 2-1 win. In fact, it was another humiliation for United against the Reds. Liverpool fans really take to managers when they feel like a fit, and the Scousers are already smitten with Arne Slot. He had just tweaked things, turning Jurgen Klopp's flat 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. As I've said on this channel before, playing with a 6, an 8, and a 10. I could go on about Liverpool, but the bottom line is there are 3 teams that are in it this season. All of them have to play at a ridiculously high level if they want to win, and they are Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal. But most people weren't complimenting Liverpool, they were in equal measure criticising and laughing at Man U. Casemiro getting hooked at half time after being ridiculously bad has created its own genre of meme. Leave the football before the football leaves you, as former Reds player Jamie Carragher put it, and they did just lose 3-0 at home. They are miles off the big 3, but they looked much better in pressing in the first 2 games using a false 9, with Bruno Fernandes up top. However, with Mason Mount injured, they decided to put actual striker Joshua Zirkzee there. This may have been worth it if Xerxes was capable of taking his chances, but alas, he had a pretty poor game in front of goal, blanking with 1.08 xg. United have the most tackles, second most interceptions and possessions won, and third most possessions won in the final third per 90 minutes this season. Last season, they were middling in each of those statistics. Everyone knows how important having a strong press is these days, and if United can revert to the false nine, then they may improve. However, the Red Devils still need to score goals, and they only have two this season in three league games. One was by Xerxes off the bench, with the other by Amad Diallo. Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes will have to pick up the slack because you can't do much without winning goals. At pretty much every level, a goal scorer is the difference between the title and missing out, Europe and mid-table, or survival and relegation. United are making good chances. In fact, they have the highest XG per shot taken in the league with 0.16. They are not just aggressive without the ball, but aggressive with it too. They are pushing fullbacks very high and sometimes centrally as well. And when they give away possession, which was happening a lot with a Casemiro disaster class, they are then overloaded completely. Arne Slot seemed to recognise this, which is why Diaz and Salah, who all three games goals came from, stayed high. United have the most transitions against, sorry, second most transitions against, and the most direct speed against this season, with teams breaking at 2.05 metres per second against them. Bournemouth are second on 1.95, with four teams on 1.94. United have to fill in the gaps, something they hope Manuel Ugarte will do. Casemiro's reputation has been shattered by one game, despite having won 5 Champions Leagues. It's a cold world out there sometimes. Well, that was a tough one, wasn't it? Only one correct score with Nottingham Forest beating Wolves, and four other correct results. Got Brentford beating Southampton by two, City winning by two. Uh, I got Aston Villa winning and Liverpool winning, although the scores were back to front. It was Liverpool who won by a greater margin than I thought, and Villa had it much harder than I thought. But Arsenal v Brighton, I think that one can be forgiven with the red card Everton v Bournemouth. I mean, in a way, I predicted a draw. In a way, it'd been better if I predicted a big Everton win because Everton were the better team, but they still managed to lose. Ipswich v Fulham, that would be a disappointment for Fulham. They would have wanted to win that one. Things looking actually, I think, with the numbers under the radar, a bit worrying for Fulham at the moment, even though, you know, 4 points is all right. Uh, Chelsea, I thought they would win. They really should have won that. But they managed not to. And Newcastle Spurs, I thought it would be a draw again. Even though Newcastle won, I'm not sure they were the better team. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the international break. I know it splits opinions, but I'm a big fan of it. I think that most fans would have wanted football to come back, maybe enjoyed watching England or whoever, although I'm not sure you did if you're a fan of Arsenal after Erdegaard got injured before the North London derby. That's the biggest injury. There are a few others like Ake. Well, we'll have a look at that, all of those in the Game Week 4 preview. So all the clubs got 2 weeks off, but now they're going to be in the deep end with Europe starting, the League Cup continuing. So yeah, see you soon for the Game Week 4 preview. And thanks so much for watching.